At was a young man who lived in a small Yoruba village. His father was an elder who always told him to respect the gods, especially Sango, the god of thunder. Sango's shrine was in the village, and people brought offerings like yam, palm oil and kola nuts. But Ade didn't care much for these things. He thought they didn't matter. Every year, the village celebrated Sango. People danced, sang, and gave sacrifices. The festival was big, and the air was full of drumming and chanting. The Egungun spirits would dance through the streets. It was during this festival that Ade decided to steal from Sango's shrine. While everyone was celebrating, he sneaked into the shrine and took the offerings. Late at night, when no one was looking, Ade went into the shrine and took some yams and kola nuts meant for Sango. He thought no one would notice and he could get away with it. The day after Ade stole from the shrine, the weather changed. Even though it was dry season, dark clouds gathered and thunder rolled across the village. The people became worried and began to ask, "Who has angered Sango?" That evening, lightning struck Ade's house. The thunder was so loud that everyone ran outside to see what had happened. Ade was scared, but he kept quiet. The villagers knew that Sango never struck a house for no reason. Something was very wrong. The village elders called everyone to the meeting place, the Ikbalsas. Baba Ogundele, the oldest elder, told the people that someone had offended Sango. He asked the guilty person to confess, or the punishment would be worse. But Ade was too afraid to speak. For the next few days, lightning strikes happened everywhere in the village. Trees were hit, and thunder filled the air. People started to whisper that Ade was the one who angered Sango. His close friend Kola confronted him, but Ade still refused to admit what he had done. The village priest consulted the Ifa oracle to find out why the village was being punished. The oracle revealed that Sango was angry because someone had stolen from his shrine. The only way to stop the punishment was for the thief to confess and make a sacrifice. At night, Ade couldn't sleep. He had nightmares where Sango appeared in the clouds, holding a powerful axe that crackled with lightning. Sango warned him that if he didn't confess, the punishment would continue. Lightning seemed to follow Ade wherever he went. One day, a bolt struck the ground just a few steps away from him while he walked in the village. The people saw this and now knew for sure that Ade was the one who offended Sango. Finally, Ade visited Baba Ayodele, a powerful Babalawo, diviner. Baba Ayodele told Ade that Sango would not stop until Ade made things right. He had to go on a journey to the sacred hill of Okesango to beg for forgiveness. The journey would be difficult, but it was the only way to save his life. Ade's family helped him prepare. He gathered kola nuts, palm oil, and a white ram for the sacrifice. His mother tied a protective charm around his wrist to keep him safe. This charm, made from the bark of the Iroko tree, was meant to protect him from evil spirits. Before leaving, Ade had to go through a purification ceremony called Iwure. The village priest poured water and palm oil on his head, asking the ancestors to protect him on his journey. This was a normal Yoruba custom when someone was about to take a dangerous trip. Ade's journey was long and hard. He passed through thick forests, crossed rivers, and faced many challenges. At night, he heard the cries of animals and spirits in the dark, but he knew he had to keep going. He woke up the following day and didn't find a trace of the ram he tied the previous night. There were no bloodstains around either. He kept on going. On the third night of his journey, Ade set up camp by a small river. As darkness enveloped the forest, his campfire flickered weakly. The wind picked up and an unnatural chill filled the air. Suddenly, the cries of unseen spirits echoed through the trees. These were the Ajogun's malevolent spirits who thrived on fear and chaos. They emerged from the shadows, their forms twisted and shifting, resembling half-human, half-beast figures with hollow eyes. The spirits whispered curses and temptations in his ears, trying to break his will. "Turn back, thief," they hissed. "Sango's wrath will only grow." One spirit, with its hands like claws, reached for Aid's charm, trying to pull it off his wrist. Aid felt a cold, suffocating grip around his neck as he struggled to breathe. His hand shaking, Ada recited the prayer Baba Ayodele had taught him. As he repeated the words, his charm glowed faintly, pushing back the spirits. But they didn't retreat easily. The spirits began to swirl around him like a whirlwind, kicking up dirt and leaves. Aid's skin felt as if it were burning and his vision blurred. He fought to hold on to his charm and kept chanting, louder and louder, until the glow intensified, forming a protective barrier around him. The spirits screamed in frustration and vanished into the night, but Ade knew their power had weakened him. Exhausted, he collapsed beside his dying campfire. In the distance, he heard a loud, mocking laughter echoing through the forest. Sango was testing him. As Ade moved further, he entered a forest unlike any he had seen before. The trees towered above him, their branches reaching down like fingers. Their bark was lined with hundreds of eyes watching his every move. These were the Iroko trees, sacred and feared, believed to be the home of ancient spirits. The forest seemed alive, whispering his name in low voices. The ground beneath his feet turned soft, pulling him in as if trying to swallow him whole. Aid struggled to move, every step feeling like he was wading through quicksand. Suddenly, the branches moved, grabbing at his clothes and arms. The eyes on the tree trunks glowed, and faces began to form, mocking him for his theft. "Why do you think you will be forgiven?" they taunted. "You have stolen from the god of thunder." The path ahead was blocked by thick roots and branches, which lashed out at him like whips. Aid felt the pain of every strike as they cut into his skin. The charm on his wrist glowed, but its light was faint. He knew the spirits were growing stronger. He pushed forward, using his hands to tear through the branches. With each step, he called out Sango's name, begging for forgiveness, even as the forest tried to hold him back. At one point, the ground opened into a pit filled with writhing shadows. These were the Ifon, spirits of the forgotten, and they reached for his legs, trying to pull him in. Aid fought, pulling himself out of their grasp, and threw kola nuts, one of his offerings, into the pit. The spirits hissed and retreated, allowing him a moment of freedom. As he struggled through the forest, rain began to pour. The forest became even more alive, with branches forming faces that screamed and clawed at him. Exhausted, bleeding, and soaked, Aid finally saw the edge of the forest. With one last effort, he tore through the branches and escaped, falling onto the rocky path leading up to Sango. Aid now stood at the base of Sango, the sacred hill. The path was steep and rocky, disappearing into a thick veil of mist. As he began his ascent, the ground trembled beneath his feet. The air grew colder, and the mist thickened, making it hard to see. Lightning lit up the sky, followed by thunder that seemed to shake the entire hill. The wind howled, pushing against him as if trying to force him back down. The path ahead was not only steep, but also treacherous. Rocks crumbled beneath his feet, and he struggled to keep his balance. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his side. An unseen force was trying to pull him off the path. The Ianifa, female priests of Sango, had warned that the hill was guarded by Oro, the invisible spirits that tested the resolve of those who sought the thunder god's mercy. As Ade continued to climb, the mist transformed into faces, whispering in a language he couldn't understand. They clawed at his clothes and his skin, leaving marks as they tried to drag him into the abyss below. His charm glowed brightly, repelling some of the spirits, but Aid could feel its power fading. The weight of the storm bore down on him, and he was drenched in rain. At one point, a massive bolt of lightning struck the ground right before him, creating a fiery chasm. Flames rose, blocking his path. Aid, now desperate, knelt and offered a kola nut, chanting a prayer to Sango. The flames flickered and the lightning ceased for a moment, allowing him to jump over the chasm. As he neared the summit, the wind intensified and the rocks shifted underfoot, threatening to send him tumbling down. The sky above roared, and a massive, shadowy figure appeared in the clouds, Sango himself watching his every move. "Show your true repentance," the thunder god's voice boomed. Aid, with tears mixing with the rain on his face, called out, Sango, I am sorry for my arrogance and theft. Spare me and I will serve you faithfully. The winds lashed at him harder, and his charm dimmed as the final test approached. He reached the final stretch where the Iyanifa awaited him, but the spirits of the hill, refusing to let him pass, formed a wall of shadow. Aid, now weak and barely able to stand, threw his remaining cola nuts and palm oil onto the ground, crying out Sango's name. The shadows parted, and the Iyanifa extended their hands to pull him through. Exhausted and battered, Ade finally stood at the summit. The storm ceased, and the mist cleared, revealing the shrine of Sango. He found the very ram he had lost at the beginning of his journey tied to a branch. The Iyanifa performed purification rites and guided Ade to offer his final sacrifice. He knew he had faced Sango's wrath and passed the test set before him. At the top of the hill, Ade offered the white ram and the cola nuts to Sango. He knelt and begged for forgiveness. The priest prayed loudly, asking Sango to accept the sacrifice. Ade could feel the power of the god all around him as thunder rolled through the sky. After the sacrifice, the sky became calm. The storm stopped and the clouds parted. Sango had accepted Ade's apology. Ade felt a weight lift from his shoulders, and the priest told him he was forgiven. But they warned him, never again should he or anyone else disrespect Sango. Ade returned to the village where the people gathered to hear his story. The elders performed a final ceremony to cleanse him of Sango's anger. From that day on, Ade lived humbly, knowing that Sango's power was real. His story became a lesson for the village: never steal from the gods and always respect their power. The end.